I often get a lot of information, and I don't know if you want to call them downloads, but I've always had really intense dreams. My entire life, I have these I don't know, it's like messages come to me in dreams, and if I wake up immediately and write them down, I'm always kind of like blown away by their insights, and always kind of love this. So I had a lot of mathematical dreams last night, which again, I often find really fascinating, and I will make a video about that particular portion of my dreams this afternoon. But again, this particular state of mind that I woke up in was quite interesting, and actually kind of reaffirmed and gave me a lot of clarity. So I wanted to just kind of dive into like why I'm doing these videos, why I'm teaching these things, because of course I've been a teacher for many years in my colleges and creating curriculum, and it's always been a foundation of everything that I embody to try to teach. I come from a long line of teachers. My grandma was a teacher, my aunt was a teacher, and so I think to some degree, genetically, there is a certain genetic aspect to a vocation that you would take on. So again, I don't have any children, so I've always had this strong desire, however, to be able to impart some of the knowledge that I've gathered along my path, and hopefully, it would spark something in, people of all ages, that they can take something from what I've learned. And this isn't an egotistical thing. I'm not saying that, my knowledge is the be all end all. I don't believe that in any regard. I believe that our human family, the biosphere, the earth that we're living on, is this fractal, this sort of holographic disbursement of consciousness. So consciousness has differentiated itself throughout the multitude of forms of existence on this planet. And by doing this, by this fractured nature, this fractal or holographic way of duplication, it is a mechanism for isolated, singular focused learning. So consciousness can stream itself through a particular spectrum or lens. And by doing this, it increases exponentially in the rapidity of the learning, because again, when we are differentiating our focus through a certain lens, the learning becomes hyper-focused. So think of it like this. Think of it as anybody that studies a certain art. So if somebody is a master in martial arts and has studied that their entire life, they're going to be really expert at that one vocation. Or if somebody is studying, just cellular structure, or a specific element of cellular structure, like, a specific particle, and that's all they study, they're going to know so much about that one thing from that one perspective. And then what you can do is gather all of these beautiful perspectives to reintegrate unification. And that is essentially what all of the religions around the world are trying to kind of lead us towards. This idea that the fact that there was separation had a mechanism. The mechanism is extensive experiential learning. But the unity back into oneness is the coalescing of this knowledge and bringing it all together. It's that bridging of knowledge. And when we do that, when we have that unification, the way in which the universe will out-manifest, and also the one, the all, the creator will understand itself in a greater depth. Because again, everything is always learning. And one of the really cool downloads that I had last night in mathematical terms was very much to do with the infinite and understanding infinity, which again, I'll go into in my next series of videos once I get out into nature and kind of zen out and map it out so that I can properly teach it. But what I want to talk about this morning, and specifically, is because the universe was designed in terms of a dualistic, the structures around us, and take what is already out manifest and try to understand what the coding of it is. What is its semblance, or the way that it is designed, trying to teach or mirror back to my own personal consciousness. So again, because everything around me seems to be dualistic, light and dark, you know, positive, negative, up, down, sort of, you know, cyclical, dualistic patterning, I kind of try to see everything through that lens and then bring it back to sort of that unity consciousness. And then again, always spinning it around from different, you know, points of thinking. And this is what we're essentially trying to do. When we learn, we're trying to actually break outside of, you know, what is robotically programmed into us. And it's great through our education system, of course, to have some foundational principles in terms of the infrastructure of what we are to learn. But when we, like, I mean, when I was in university, and especially in grade school, you know, elementary, junior high, high school, I found a lot of the concepts very mundane. So I had a hard time paying attention in school, because to me, it was just like, they could have explained exactly what they were teaching in an hour in 2 minutes, and I didn't understand the repetitive robotic nature of it. And the points were always very simple, and I didn't see a real mass expansion of my consciousness. So I actually had trouble with this all throughout school, in terms of really feeling captivated by the information that the school system was giving me. I found it to be extremely boring. So, I mean, I kind of fucked around in school. I wasn't really pulled towards the information. It came to me very quickly. I had no problem, you know, passing tests easily. So I very randomly went to school, and then I would pass all my tests with, you know, high grades, because to me it was like, you know, read the book. You can read a book in an afternoon. You got all the information. It's in there. So write the test. Come on, let's move on, guys. Let's go to a higher level of thinking. And I'm not trying to downgrade our system, but I do feel that for many children, it is not, it doesn't develop their consciousness, and it doesn't breed this idea of free thinking. And I think really free thinking is a mechanism at which we advance as a civilization, as culture, like how we culturally advance and how we advance as a species. Because if we're just learning the same things that everybody's always learned, we really don't grow. And I think, again, learning is the most beautiful, exciting thing that you can do every day. If you're learning something new, if you're growing in some way, if you are amazing yourself by the knowledge, the mystery of the universe, to me, that's what really fires me up to keep going. I mean, I can stay up all night just learning and analyzing things and trying to put the pieces together and trying to decode things. For me, that's a passion. I love doing that. I can't read enough books. I can't get enough information. It's just, it really fills my soul. And I think if we step out of the social media matrix, I mean, there are some mechanisms of learning on social media that are, of course, completely amazing. If you are really getting into some sort of course structure, or somebody that is teaching something that expands your consciousness, then that's a beautiful way to learn, because often online we have, you know, the visual cortex is stimulated because there's visuals. There'll be some auditory learning because, of course, there's lecturing in there. And, you know, if you are at the same time taking notes, you are activating that mechanism within your brain where you are ingraining that knowledge. So again, there can be additional pictures and learning aids in terms of what you're going to see streaming that are, again, very helpful to your learning. And all of these things increase the speed of learning. So that neural connectivity, where you can really synthesize all of that information you're getting. So if you're using platforms for that reason, amazing, I love it. But if you're just mindlessly scrolling and you're really not getting anything out of it, then you're actually dulling the blade of your mind. This video actually ended up being, I haven't got to even the purpose of why I was making this video. So I'm gonna end this off and make a kind of shorter video out of this, just simply about the excitement and mechanism of learning, because that's kind of the direction I took. So yeah, I mean, that is really why we are here. We are here to expand our consciousness through having a body, through experiencing the five senses, understanding how we are in terms of energy. So a lot of it is, again, energy transfer, understanding the body that we have and how energy, our own energy, and the energy at large is affecting us. And one of the best ways, and how I'm going to end this video series to really think about this, is when you're in a car. So when you feel the speed of a car and then somebody pulls in front of you and you have to manipulate the energy of that car to slow down, and how you'll have an emotional response to that. So understanding how that energy of that abrupt stop affects everything in your body, affects your emotional energy, your mental energy, and how that abruptness of that energy affects everything in your auric field. And then another experience of energy transfer in a vehicle is extreme acceleration. So understanding again how the modality of that extreme acceleration of you as an energy packet, how that feels in a vehicle. And when you start to pay attention to these things and pay attention to your response to them, you start to realize your own manipulation of energy, your own energy, the energy around you, and how you are continually bumping into others' energy. So when we think of the car analysis, again, we really, more in a very visceral way, feel this energy transfer. And what I've noticed is that to find this equilibrium, I have to have a very calm transfer of my energy, which means I have to keep space around me when I'm in a vehicle so that there's never these abrupt stops and starts, that everything that I want to do within this energy transfer is very gentle. So I like what feels natural to me is this very wave-like, I call it Zen driving, but where there is no abruptness to my energy. There's no kind of fracturing of my peace. I want peace. I want to always stay in this peaceful state. And I believe this is the equilibrium of creation. So creation is a very peaceful process at its core. Now, there are things that we see in our universe that are very like the opposite of peaceful. You know, you have supernovas, you have the death of stars, you have, you know, natural disasters, and that again can be very abrupt. But I think what I have integrated from, you know, the observation of my very micro world and then the observation of the macro world is, you know, and that would be the broader universe, the solar system, the way that creation exists on that very macro scale, is that the unmanifest is very peaceful. The unmanifest is very balanced. When we start to get into these lower levels, and I'm talking lower levels because again, that which is infinite, that which is unmanifest, does stay in this equilibrium of peace. And as it delineates its consciousness into the lower levels, at greater frequency is there this, it isn't incoherent. I'm trying to struggle at the words because I can see the pictures in my mind, but basically, as it trickles down to the lower levels, it is less smooth. The edges become more rough. So we even see that in our three-dimensional understanding of reality, because again, it is not a smooth process. It's a bumpy ride. Just like in that car, our three-dimensional world is, you know, we can liken it to that bumpy ride in the car. And that's, again, very much how I have experienced three-dimensional reality. Is it is not the dance that I experience my consciousness to be. When I'm in my flow state, or when I'm in the peace that resides inside of me, or the consciousness, I experience it as this wave, this beautiful vibrational wave that is never ending. And it has a certain temperance, you know, and I know that temperance, or whatever that song is, that frequency is, I know it to be myself, the I that I am. And when I experience the third dimension, so the three-dimensional reality, and sometimes, you know, bridging into the fourth dimension, I see it, or I experience it as fractured and not in sync with what is on the inside, unless I'm alone. When I'm alone, I experience the third dimension, or dimensional reality, in that construct of the mirroring of the projection of what I am. When I'm alone, it's very balanced, it's very peaceful, it's not fractured in any way. But again, and then this will kind of circle back to some of the videos I made about being an empath, or being very empathic. When I get out into, you know, more interaction with different beings and different life forms, again, there is not the same exact resonance. And I experience this very acutely, and I'm very sensitive to this, and I always have been. Now, there's one sort of, I guess, aspect of this that I also understand, is that nature. So when I'm in nature alone, because again, nature is still this three-dimensional manifestation. So it is external to whatever this being I am residing, you know, the body. It's external, or it seems external, because again, that's an illusion, because everything is interconnected. But this separation barrier between myself and the three-dimensional world, when I experience nature, so whether it be, you know, being in the mountains, being out in the natural world, and I've had many opportunities in my lifetime to be very much alone in the natural world, the same pervasive peace exists. So I never feel like, when I say, you know, being alone, if I'm alone with animals, or if I'm alone in nature and nature with animals, I never feel afraid. You know, I've actually been around a lot of, you know, what people would term like sort of scary animals. I don't know, I've never been scared by animals, but, you know, moose or bears, or, you know, they're around my ranch all the time, and I've never had a fear of animals. And one instance of this is I was in the mountains and just sitting, you know, in the grass, and this big giant, you know, wild buck came up to me, and I was just sitting there, and, you know, not afraid at all, just sort of communicating with it telepathically. And it came right up to me and just started licking my face. I mean, it was such a cool experience, and it just clarified for me in that moment that it's how we perceive things. I never perceived that animal as a threat. I didn't approach it. I wasn't trying to gain anything from it. I wasn't trying to pet it, or, you know, interact with it in a selfishly, you know, trying to get its attention kind of way. Like I remember there was a little cartoon character, I think her name was like Elvira or something like that, and she was always grabbing all the animals and like holding them and just not releasing them. So that kind of energy with the animal kingdom doesn't work. Like, animals don't enjoy that. So you have to kind of let them come to you. But when you are in this peaceful state, I've always found birds, animals, they'll just come up to you, and because they feel your energy, they feel your core frequency. And so again, you know, going back into this state of oneness, this peacefulness, is again where you will really start to learn about your own peace and your own home frequency.